Hey everyone, welcome back. So I am actually going to be creating violet hues, and I'm taking my cobalt blue and my cadmium red light and I'm mixing it together. So this is going to be where I'm going to begin creating my value scale with this mixed color. I start from the top, add a little bit of my mixed color in and bring it down. And I'm not creating the biggest value scale. In fact, I'm spending more time on the darkest values here because what I want to do is just go around and block in all of my darkest values. So you're probably wondering why violet. So this is one of the colors that I sourced on Canva, and I thought that from working with blue as my background color and cadmium red light as my foreground color or primary foreground color, that the gray in between would be this violet color, and I'm using this to pretty much block in most of my dark values. And what I mean by dark blocking in dark values is you're going to go around and try to find all the places where you see the deepest, darkest shadows. Sounds like super metal, but yeah, you're just going to want to go in with making sure that you're adding your gloss glazing liquid so everything remains transparent. If you want to go darker, you can always let it dry and then continue to go darker, but I would highly recommend that in this first layer of paint, this is the first time you're really laying down paint down with intention. I know you did a little bit with the background, but this is the one where you're really starting to focus on how you're going to be building your layers up. So for this first one, you just want enough pigment that will kind of show a transition of shadows, but you don't have to go too crazy. Now, obviously, if there are places that are very dark, you could potentially put a little bit less gloss glazing liquid, but I still wouldn't recommend it. I'm adding my shadows in around the hairline because this is something we don't really think about, but the shadows that are cast from the hair that falls over. And yeah, so I'm just going to continue working on this for the rest of the piece. Now, there's a couple things I need to cover. I am talking to you from the future of the other videos, and that is just because I made a mistake and realized that I didn't have this video when I was looking at my footage last night, so I'm not sure if I accidentally deleted it or I forgot to press record, but here we are. So I'm going to do my best to try to remember what I talked about in this sequence, in this video. In the last video, we talked about the untrained eye and how you would train the eye for details, highlights, midtones, and shadows, I think is what I was covering here. So I think one good example would be how you learn to ride a bike or drive a car. The first time you begin learning, you have to be kind of oversaturated with information to the point where it may almost feel a little bit overwhelming. Some things really stick with you and you're like, yeah, I got that. Driving's going to be a piece of cake. And then maybe there's other things where you wouldn't really know how to handle it unless you were in a car. Like a textbook could never tell you what it's like to drive or have you know what it feels like. So similarly with art, even after I'm done training you with like the how-to process, I know that it's going to be a completely different experience for you when you start sitting in front of your blank canvas. And my job, or what my hope is that I'm giving you enough information to have you sit there and say, okay, first step is this, first step is that. But the first time you begin painting, where you kind of feel like it's a bigger chunk than you can chew, and it may be something that you've done with this class, or maybe you're going to take a step back and do something a little bit more simplistic. Either way, when you've gotten to that point, just think of it as learning to drive a car. They're going to bombard you with information. Not everything is going to stick. The only thing that you can do is take what you can take in at the moment and try not to feel overwhelmed. And how you begin to train the eye is just by doing things that you like. Detail is something that we don't really think about very often in our normal lives because everything is consistently moving. So in our minds, We will focus on the details of the things that we are quite literally focusing on, whether it's our cell phone or whether it's the person that we are talking to, hopefully more the person we're talking to. But think of how it is in your mind. When you're focused on something, kind of everything else sort of fades away. When you begin painting, you're going to start to realize that you're going to be faced with a couple of obstacles. How much detail should you put into your paintings? First of all, don't think about detail at all in the beginning stages. The only thing I think you should be focusing on are your highlights, your midtones, and shadows. So training your eye to see that is going to be a little bit tricky at first, and here is a tip. If you're looking at your black and white reference photo and you're not sure where the highlights, the midtones, or the shadows are, a trick could be that you squint your eyes. And it's going to be a lot easier to see which parts are popping out forward, which parts are looking like they're going back into the distance, and everything else would be mid-tone. So if that helps you, use that trick. But I can tell you that when you begin to start thinking about highlights, midtones, and shadows, and you're scanning the image as you're beginning to paint, you will be training the eye similar to how we play sports. Shooting a basketball, knowing how to aim, that is something that comes with practice. And over time, if you practice over and over again, then you don't really have to think so much about all the things coming together to make sure that you're putting it in the right spot. Eventually what happens is it's just your hand and your eye and your mind kind of gel. And me doing this full time, I can tell you that if I take a week off or a month off, I get, and we are coming to the end, so I'm going to wrap this up. Spray, clean, wipe. But I can tell you that I get rusty. So even with someone that does this full time, I can tell you that if I haven't done it for a while, if I've taken a break for whatever reason, that I still have to kind of figure out a way to make things gel again. And practicing just means doing. When you find yourself in a situation that you have to work your way out of, your brain, it's not like survival mode, but you kind of, in a way it sort of is. You start thinking about, how do I get myself out of this? And how do I get myself to the end result? Or do I quit altogether? And if you can just come up with any process to say, today I'm only going to do blocking in my violet values. Tomorrow I'm only going to do blocking in my red values. If you're focusing on a process, then you're never going to get to a point in your painting process where you feel like you're completely lost without a roadmap. It's really good to just kind of take everything in these classes, even if you feel overwhelmed. And stuff that won't stick right away when you're watching these videos will come to you again when it comes time to painting. And the great thing about these videos is you can watch them over and over again. There's no deadline. This is always going to be here for you. So years from now, if you want to come back and watch these videos, or something struck you in years to come that didn't now, then they're going to be here. Okay, so I will see you in the next video. Take care.